Snap to Bridgewater. Back to throw against the pocket. Deflected, intercepted by Sorensen at the 40. He's at the 50 and breaks a tackle. Sorensen at the 30, 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, Kansas City.
That was part of a big win for the Chiefs over the Broncos back in Week 13, hoping for a similar result here in this one as the Chiefs seek a 13th consecutive victory over Denver. Hey everyone, and welcome into our game preview this week presented by Crown Royal. My name is Matt McMullen, and this week we're joined by James Palmer from NFL Network. He's going to help us break down Chiefs versus Broncos. James, what's up, man?
What's going on, Matt? I was with you guys last week. I'm going to be a home game. Never happens unless Patrick Mahomes comes to Denver. So I'm excited to be at this one on a Saturday, no less. First game kicking off the week.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. Regular season finale here, getting ready for the playoffs. And for the Chiefs, I think they're almost glad it's a Saturday game because a bit of a bummer against Cincinnati last week. It's a game that Chiefs feel like they should have won. But all you want to do after a game like that is get back out there, right? So kind of glad it's on a Saturday. Now you want to obviously carry a win into the postseason, and the Chiefs are trying to lock up the number 2 seed at least in the AFC. We'll see what happens with the Titans and Texans, but we'll start with the strength really of this Broncos squad, and it's their defense all year long. It's the number 3 scoring defense in the NFL. A lot of stars on this defense, guys like Justin Simmons, Pat Surtain II. What a season for him, his rookie campaign here with the Broncos. The Chiefs offense has looked really good lately. 4 straight games with at least 30 points scored. Want to keep that going here through this Broncos game and into the postseason. How can they keep that going here against this Broncos defense on Saturday?
Yeah, Matt, what Vic Fangio does, and I know that they've had their struggles. It's going to be 3 losing seasons under Vic Fangio. But if you go around the league, and I mentioned this to Patrick Mahomes earlier in the week, like everybody runs what Vic runs. And what Vic does to certain teams, everybody does. I mean, Bill Belichick was picking Vic Fangio's mind when he was going against Patrick Mahomes, I believe, in that AFC Championship game several years ago. His defensive scheme, you mentioned the players, but the scheme itself is what makes, this defense go. And what Pat said to me was, he has such an understanding of what you want to do. You want to go here, he's going to have guys there. You like to go over to here, he's going to have guys there as well. That's kind of the way this defense works in terms of the way it's so well coached, but you're right, there are those players. Now, they're going to be thin in this game. Kareem Jackson, veteran safety, one of the smarter guys in the NFL, he got put on IR, so he's out. And then Pat Surtain's dealing with a calf injury that it seems like a long shot he plays. What I've been told is that may change the way Vic calls the game a little bit. With as much as they put on Patrick Surtain's plate, that they may change what they're doing a little bit. Now, this is still a really, really good secondary. They have some young linebackers that are athletic and are kind of learning and growing. It's a young group, but you're right. Guys like Justin Simmons can go out and make a play. What I'm looking to see is that the turnover issues that were a big problem for the Chiefs earlier in the season and have been alleviated of late continue to go in that direction heading into the postseason. That's the number one thing I would take out of this game for Patrick Mahomes in this offense. The last 4 games, right, at least 31 points a game, 100 quarterback rating every game, but it's 10 touchdowns to 1 interception. To me, that's the biggest part of how this offense is played, protecting the football. If you can do that in this final game, I think that's the big feather in your cap heading into the postseason, that you're continuing to have these methodical drives, some explosive plays when you get them, but you're protecting the football in a better manner than you were at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I think the real key word here is patience. And Patrick Mahomes mentioned that a few days ago, is the patience. He's grown in that way as a quarterback this year. And it's funny because Vic Fangio, his thing is the 2 deep safeties, right? The shell coverages. He's run that his entire career, even going back to Chicago. That was what the Chiefs have faced early on in the season, and they struggled against it, but they've learned how to play against it now over the last several weeks. And you're seeing those long, methodical drives where they can go down the field and march down on those 2 safety looks, or if you decide to bring some guys up, they can hit you over the top with a big explosive play. So hopefully we see some of that here against the Broncos, so you feel good going into the postseason no matter who you play here in a few weeks in the playoffs. Now, speaking of strengths of this Broncos squad, their running game offensively is also a strength of this team normally, with Melvin Gordon and also Javonte Williams, 2 guys over 1,000 yards from scrimmage this year. It's been kind of an issue, though, lately because they haven't found a lot of success. The last 2 weeks, those guys have combined for just 81 yards on 38 carries. Hasn't worked for them. Drew Lock's at quarterback now, with Teddy Bridgewater now in injured reserve. He's been solid through 2 games, but the offense overall has struggled for Denver. Just 3 touchdowns since week 15. For this Chiefs defense, trying to bounce back from a rough game last week against Cincinnati, what's a matchup or 2 that you're watching between the Chiefs defense and the Broncos offense on Saturday?
I mean, I think it starts up front, obviously. Everything always does. And Dalton Reisner, probably one of the best, if not the best offensive lineman on this team, is now done for the season. And he's not going to play at that guard position. I think that changes things for Chris Jones on the interior and how they're going to be able to handle him. They haven't run the football the way they've wanted to. There was that, you're right, that stretch with both those guys that they were really running the football well for a period of time. And it hasn't happened over the last couple of weeks. There's been some missed blocking assignments. I think Javonte Williams is one of the bright spots of this entire Broncos team, part of a draft class that I think new general manager George Payton really knocked it out of the park when we talked about Patrick Surtain and have Javonte Williams. I said the young linebackers, you have a guy like Baron Brown and Jonathan Cooper as a pass rusher. I mean, they did a really good job in terms of this draft. I think they need to run the football. I think that's the matchup we're going to look at because it's that one, and then I'll get to the second one, but that one keeps Patrick Mahomes off the field, right? And that's what the Broncos want to be able to do, and that's what they've done in some of these games. But the other part is, can Drew Lock protect the football? He's done it pretty well in these couple games. He's now started in place of Teddy Bridgewater, but he's an aggressive quarterback. He wants to go out and prove something to the Broncos and possibly 31 other teams about what type of quarterback he is in this finale of the regular season, because who knows what his future is moving forward. So he likes to take aggressive shots. He likes to kind of use that big arm that he has, right? And he's a Kansas City kid. He'd like to take down the Chiefs. But I think if he protects the football, that's one thing that I want to keep an eye on, because the big part, as I mentioned about the offense not wanting to turn it over going into the postseason, I think this Chiefs defense needs to get some turnovers heading into the postseason, right? 2.6 turnovers a game since week 8 heading into that Cincinnati game. It was a big part of how this defense is played, and it's a big part of how Patrick Mahomes capitalizes as an offense. What did we see against Cincinnati? They didn't force a single turnover, and it's kind of a different defense when that happens. If they can force a couple turnovers in this game, that gets them back into the mindset, back into what they've been doing for this long stretch of the second half. I think they need to get Drew Lock into a turnover or two and feed that into the postseason.
Yeah, this Chiefs defense, they've really turned things around since week 8, right? And the turnovers are in direct correlation with that. Since week 8, they've forced the most turnovers in the NFL. So hopefully we can see some of that here against the Broncos. Overall, you just want the team to be feeling good on both sides of the ball, playing their best football going here into the postseason. If the Chiefs can win, they'll become just the 5th team in NFL history to win 12 or more games in 4 straight seasons. And also, as I mentioned at the top, seeking their 13th consecutive victory over Denver. Never want that streak to stop. Let's keep it going here on Saturday against the Broncos to close out the regular season. James, awesome stuff as always, man. Really appreciate your time.
Appreciate it, Matt. See you in Denver.